Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the July Norms event here in New York City. It's round number 3. I've got 1 point out of 2 after beating Brewington Hardaway in the first round and losing to Tani Adewumi in the second round. This round is a tricky one because I'm playing against someone I know very well. I mentioned in the preview to this tournament that I actually know Akira's entire repertoire, and that's because he is coached by a good friend of mine, and we've played a lot of similar openings. So not only have I played Aki before, I know what he's going to play, and also you have to keep in mind that in US tournaments we play 2 games a day. So I'm super exhausted from my first round game against Tani. I got an hour and a half to eat, rest, and whatever. And before the game, I decided that I was going to play c4, e5 because I knew that Akira was going to play c4. And I was going to play e5. Now, I also knew that we were going to get this, not this position, but this position in the first 3 moves because my opponent likes to play the knight's English, not the king's English with bishop g2 and etc. I saw that he also liked to play e3. I was kind of ready for that, but he played e4. E4 is a move for sure. It's kind of like a strange reverse Sicilian in some ways. There's a good amount of theory here, but I played bishop b4. This I know. In fact, I've played the white side of this before as well. My opponent played d3, d6, and now you go after this bishop. Now, you can take here and damage white's structure. You can also play bishop c5 and get chased around like this. There's even a line where white really desperately tries to... Oh, it's the dog. Really desperately tries to win your dark squared bishop here. But again, I faced this before with white in 2018, 2019 against Yasser Quesada Perez, grandmaster from Cuba. And what Yasser did against me was play knight e7, knight g6, and c6, I think, or maybe b6, bishop b7. I don't really remember the game. So in this game, after this position, I started thinking, and I was like, well, I prevented anything from going to g5. White's idea is to at some point play f4. He will move his knight here or there when he castles, or knight to d2, and then he will play f4. And I don't know, I had a couple of different ideas here. I thought about playing for b6. I thought about playing for knight d7, castles, knight c5, and then playing for f5. But then white will just play knight h4. And you don't really want to get a position where it's 2 bishops versus 2 knights because this works tremendously well in white's favor. I don't want to open up the position for the person with the bishop pair. So I did all this, and he played knight e1. And again, I was still completely on my own here. I didn't really know what I was supposed to do, and he was getting me very annoyed because he was playing every move within 30 seconds. So it's I was thinking 2-3 minutes every move, what is my game plan? What is he going to do? And he just, he was just firing off these moves. I thought about playing a6 to go b5 here. I thought about playing bishop d7 to go b5, and also queen c8, trying to trade off my opponent's English bishop. I thought of a lot of different things, even bishop g4 inducing this and then going back, but then he might play f4, then takes, knight h4 looks really interesting for me, but then he can play f5. I really didn't want to get barricaded out of the position. I thought visually this looked really suspicious for me, because I just thought he'll play rook f3, rook g3, and I will just get mated because I have no counterplay whatsoever. So there was a lot of different, considerations, and this was really the moment where I thought about I could attack the middle with d5, but once again, it's why would I do this, right? I mean, I just open up his bishop. The person with the bishops wants the board open. The person without the bishops probably, or just only one of them, does not want the board open. So I decided to play bishop d7. I was waiting for him to play f4. Really, this game is going to get spicy when my opponent plays f4. That's what's going to happen. If he doesn't play the move f4, he might play rook b1, improving his position. He might play a4, a5, also bringing his bishop out to this diagonal. A lot of different ideas. He can also play knight e3 and try to put his knight on f5. I also thought this was interesting. He's always better, and he's always trying to kind of take that next step into my position. He did play a4. I wasn't particularly impressed with this move. I understood the idea. Obviously, was to play bishop a3 and attack my weakness. And here I blitzed out queen c8, and obviously the point is very clear. I would just like to go and remove the English bishop. He played bishop a3, and this was an interesting moment for me because when the attack is created on my pawn, I can ignore the attack and I can defend it tactically. So for example, if I play bishop h3 straight away, then he takes on d6, and then I pin him to his pawn and his queen. And if he moves, then after it takes, I have knight e4. This was the central idea of defending my pawn tactically with bishop h3. But I rejected this because I didn't exactly see what to do if he just defends himself, but the computer is unconcerned and just wants to do this and just take back on d6, which is reasonable. I mean, I saw this, but I also saw another really interesting idea. If I play rook d8 first, this is really savage. Now if he takes, I trap his bishop. Like, his bishop just gets locked in jail with my pieces, and I'm gonna win it by moving my bishop out of the way. Now he just can't escape at all. Like, if he tries to do this, I have this with tempo, and then I'm gonna pick up the bishop. He can do this, takes, and I'm just doing very well here. I just started mowing down the center. So I thought this was an extremely clever idea when I played rook d8. But even if he doesn't take, in the long run, you know, I'm going to play for d5. Like, I have the support of my rook now. I'm going to move my bishop, and I'm going to play for d5. He played f4, which makes sense now because I abandoned the f-file, right? So it makes sense to kind of attack me where I'm weaker. Now, in this position, I took, and I had a choice here. So again, I can go for this bishop, but he's not going to address it. I thought he was going to lock me out, and I was really hesitant to do this. Again, like, I can grab the bishop, but now I'm sort of, like, I didn't see a way to reintegrate back into the game. I thought, like, if I play just super passively, this is a very depressing position. It's not. I mean, and I thought, you know, he'll reroute his bishop. If I play d5, he plays bishop f4. This just looked really difficult to deal with, not to mention the fact that, for example, I always thought he can play king h1, rook g1. I just didn't see how my bishop was ever going to get back into the game. I didn't see it. Not exactly in this method, of course, but I was very hesitant to play like this. I thought also, like, he would just run me over with his pawns. Again, Stockfish does find a way to defend the position by, like, sacrificing the knight, which I don't even understand, and then playing queen c3. Like, again, I mean, this is just, you sack a piece and you try to hang on, right? But I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that my bishop was going to get locked out. It just seemed counterintuitive. So what did I do? I didn't get my bishop locked out. I went to trade it. Now, something happened here, which happens to me quite frequently nowadays. Here I calculated f5 anyway. I calculated bishop h3. I calculated rook f2. I calculated queen e1, queen g3. I calculated queen d2 to go here. And I didn't calculate queen f3 at all. Like, I don't know how I missed this in all of my considerations. I don't know. I just sort of forgot he could go here. It's not like I'm losing. It's just a move. And I actually thought I was headed down to a worse position because, again, if I take, I thought okay, like, for example, I can trade the queens, right? But I always thought I was just worse here, and I am. I mean, it's like 0.6 for white. I just don't have any counterplay. Like, legitimately, I don't have any counterplay. White just centralizes his rooks. What am I doing? I mean, what? My horses are going to go intimidate somebody, right? I didn't quite see a way to create any problems. And the second I move a pawn, he immediately comes galloping into d5. He can still, like, break apart my structure anytime he wants, it feels like, as long as he has some support. So I wasn't thrilled, you know, when I saw queen f3. Apparently, if I take and play knight h5, Stockfish claims the position is equal. And my idea is to go here, and then, like, I thought I couldn't do this because I just thought he's going to win my knight for the two knights for the rook. I just thought, like, what am I doing here? Apparently, I can play g5. And after en passant, I have check, king h1, and then I just play fg, and white doesn't have an attack. I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe, probably. A better player would have spotted that. After queen f3, I decided to back up, which is the second best move. To attack his queen and kind of seize the initiative for myself, right? So now I'm the one playing the moves aggressively. And then here I decided to blow up the center of the board with the move d5. Now, I have to calculate f5, and I also have to calculate e5. e5 is not good because I go here. I attack f4, and if he goes bishop c1, for example, I mean, I can just take, like, suddenly the pace of the game is being played the way I want it to be played after d5. But there is f5. And f5 was also interesting. I thought that I would play knight e5 here, attacking his pawn, and he would attack my knight and defend the pawn at the same time. And I had kind of looked at all of this, right? And then here, I considered sacrificing a piece to get 2 pawns and a passed pawn that's heading down that way and get something that looked like this. I mean, this looked speculative, but possible. You know, it looked like this wasn't like the world's dumbest idea. And then this pawn and this bishop are just a very nasty combination, and it's kind of difficult for white to coordinate here. Somehow I'm doing all right. I'm not like losing, but I'm not, you know, I'm definitely suffering a little bit. So I thought about that. But then I realized, you know, I can prevent, for example, this fork, right? Because that's always there by playing rook e8. So now I'm defending my knight. There is no bishop e7. And I calculated takes, and d4. I calculated d4 straight away. I calculated maybe there was a bishop d6, maybe h3, but there is a fork. You have to be a little bit careful here with white. And my opponent played d4, and he attacked my knight. And here I completely lost my mind. Just like really not that surprising if you watch any of my recaps. I realized that I'm going to lose some material, because the idea is to just make my knight move, attack my other knight, and now I'm going to lose the bishop. Now, I could go bishop e2, but then 2 things hang at the same time. And the only thing that I can do here is go for danger levels, right? I can play knight h5. And the idea of knight h5, as my dog viciously attacks its tail, the idea here is that when I now move this knight, there is no e5. So for example, like queen h4 is the only way to keep an eye on my bishop. Now if I do move my knight, I lose the bishop, but there is g5 again. Now I saw this. I actually calculated this. fg, knight g6, queen f2. I just thought I was not doing well here. I also thought that after knight h5, my opponent would play queen f2 immediately. And the idea is to trap my bishop with h3. And then there is knight d3 in this position, jumping in behind all these pawns. Incredible, right? Attacking the queen and threatening d takes e4. But now he can go back. And I thought that there was no way out here, but I have bishop e2. It's a ridiculous move. Bishop e2. And suddenly my pieces defend each other. This looks completely nuts to play like this. Like, all 3 of my pieces are doing some super stupid stuff all over the board, but his rook can't move anywhere. It doesn't have a move, and if it goes over here, then I have knight h f4, and now I'm winning. Like, all my pieces made it into his position. They were like, you know, they were just like brought in sneakily, you know, and suddenly they're all there, right? And they're all ready to collect on the loans. Like in a mafia movie. From this position, I just didn't see that. I just didn't see knight d3, bishop e2. I was already like super bummed that I even got to this position, and I decided to sacrifice a piece. So I sacked a piece for 2 pawns. And I thought, you know, it's kind of an interesting position here, because I'm targeting the knight, I'm targeting this. I have a game plan to potentially play queen e6 and like bring my rook down there. And in a perfect world, I imagined a situation which would look like this. I would play rook e3, then I would take, he would take, and I would play queen e6, rook e1, like this. This is what I had envisioned. I have 2 pawns for a piece. I'm going to win the pawn on f6, and we will have a complicated endgame. Okay, this is what I envisioned. What I have to be careful about is he has moves like bishop e7. Not right now, because I would just take, but he can kind of barricade my entire e-file, so I figured I would have to get rid of his bishop at some point. And he thought here for about 30 minutes. And as he's thinking, I'm kind of gaining confidence. I'm like, oh, great. Like, he's concerned about my counterplay, right? 30 minutes goes by, he plays bishop c1. I'm like, oh, he doesn't have to guard his knight at all. Oh. Because he's going for mate. Now, I thought this didn't work. I thought that this just, like, he can't do this. Now, if I take, it works. I block, he goes here. Just mate. But I thought he couldn't do this because I thought, you know, I would just, like, retreat or something. I'm completely lost here. Not in the way that I thought, but, like, I thought queen h4 right away. But apparently, if I played queen h4 right away, he thought I had rook e2 with the idea of getting the queen to f8. He's still totally winning here. Like, he just goes back. He's actually just totally winning because he's going to go here, here, and then here. But he also doesn't have to play like that. He can play takes, and the idea is queen h4, and the bishop moves anywhere, and then, you know, the attack continues. It's like +6 here for white. Just in general, bishop c1 is just a wicked move. It's just a really good move. And I think I'm losing on the spot. I played king h7 so that this could be met with rook g8, and oops, right? He goes knight e3, we trade, and here, okay, I came up with another game plan, and my game plan was I'm going to trade off his bishop. He's going to go here. I'm going to go queen e6. Remember, I already talked about this a couple of times. You know, this is the game plan, okay? We're going to triple stack on the e-file. We're going to have a good time. We're going to defend our position, and life is good. And then I'm like, okay, bishop h3. That's an interesting move. I'm going to trade the queens. We're going to trade the queens. He's going to go here. I'm going to play king g6. And we, you know, I have to defend this endgame. I'm like, okay, queen b8, wonderful. And then he went here. It's just not a move I was ready to see. It doesn't look like a possible move, but I can't take it because it's mate. And I lose. I just lose the game. I resigned. Because if I go here, rook f4. If I go here, my queen is trapped. So I could have played queen d8, but again, if I'm not forcing any exchanges, white will just improve his position. And I mean, if I can't trade off at least some of these pieces, he will realize his material advantage very quickly. He will play h4, he will play bishop g4, h4. Like, okay, I can defend against mate for a little bit, but very soon it will happen. I had to trade queens, I had to trade a bishop or something, I had to trade a rook. Bishop f4, and I lost. I'm now 1 out of 3. I've lost 8 rating points, and yeah, I mean, what to say? I can't quit on the tournament. You know, I've got 6 more games to play. I'm gonna try to. I'm adjusting my tournament strategy. My tournament strategy is now don't go below 2300, and we'll see where we go from there. This was a terrible game. I think a couple of reasons contributed. I think I did not fully recover from the morning game, and I think my mentality was quite negative. And I mean, my opponent played a great game, so as usual. Actually, Aki and Tani both have 3 out of 3. They are both perfect. They've won every game that they've played. So they're going to lose to people who are probably going to get an IM norm and also are playing great chess. It's not much you can do. But yeah, I'm trash. Nothing new. And we're going to try to win a couple of games today. Or when you're watching this, I've already played a game, so hopefully I've won it. Right, dog? Right. Very good. See you all for round number 4. Sorry I'm terrible. Catch you in the next recap. Get out of here.